All right. Hello, everybody. Hope you all are doing well. This is DFS Army's pre-lock show for NBA. Last night was pretty good. We had a few plays not go our way. I honestly can't even tell you what they were anymore. I kind of just let it leave my mind. But B-Dubs, you had a great night. You had, what was it again? The top finish in the 20 max?
Yeah, it was ninth place and a 20 max for the night slate. I missed out on the main slate, so just
Hey,
did that.
you still found your blessings, so I'll call that a win. That's sweet, man. Congrats.
Appreciate it.
Cujo, good to see you. Everyone's saying hello, gang. I'm not against it. I'm not. We can start that trend, but at some point it might start to feel a little weird. But I'm cool with it now. We have a 3-game slate on deck. Lock's not until 8, so we have a lot of time. But I'm not gonna ramble too much. Beat-ups, man. I feel like it's been too long since you've been on the show. How
Seriously.
have you been outside of winning tournaments and doing well? Outside of that, are you doing all right, man?
Yeah, not bad. Just been busy in personal life, of course, but definitely excited to be back with you guys.
Yeah, you're back. You're able to actually help us make some money too, so it's gonna be good. It's gonna be good. Weird 3-game slate. We're talking about it a bit before the show. There's a lot of viable and interesting spots, but everyone's pretty chalky on the right plays. I know there's one play I'm trying to get different at, but do you have any just general slate overview thoughts?
Yeah, this we were talking before the show. This one is just kind of weird. There's some pretty bad teams on this slate, which means we got to play some pretty bad players and be comfortable with it. So feeling a bit uneasy, but I think there's some spots we can try to get some leverage on.
Nice. Good to see you, Chris. Adon, good to see you as well. Probably butchered your name. I'm sorry. OG, good to see you, man. Also, for those of you who are here, you are not wrong, OG. Do smash the like button. We need to make sure people know that you're watching and actually doing stuff while you're watching, engaging. That's what it's called. And then also, what we're using today is DFS Army's optimizer. You'll hear us call it the DS. Jesus is what some people call it. This thing is pretty spot on and has helped us win multiple tournaments. It was part of what helped Brandon have that top 10 finish in the 20 max tournament last night. If you want exposure, feel free to click the link in the description. Feel free to use promo code BDUBB, beat up for a 10% discount there and get with us. And you'll be able to use the optimizer. You'll be a part of the Discord where we talk about changes that happen when we have a lot of slate breaking news. So we're on top of everything. Yeah. We'll get there. That will definitely be pretty impactful, Florida. But all right, let's jump right into these games. We have the Timberwolves going up against the Chicago Bulls. From an injury news standpoint, there's not really much here for Minnesota, which is why they're not as interesting as some of the other teams on the slate. But who do you like here, man?
So I see we did the same thing with Ant. So he's just too good and has too high of upside. I wasn't really getting much of him. I think I was at like 1%. So had to fix that because on a slate like this, especially if he goes off, you're just kind of doomed from the start. So wanted to make sure I at least had some exposure there. Dante DiVincenzo, he's probably one of my favorite plays on this team. Pretty cheap price, and we know the upside is there. He just has to knock his shots down, and I love the minutes he sees. And then Conley, I always feel a bit iffy about playing him, but again, his price is pretty cheap and makes lines work. And it is against Chicago, who hasn't really been that great this season, so I'm okay with playing him. And then some of these other guys like Randall, Gobert, and McDaniels, I just kind of let the DS decide what to do with.
Yeah, the one I am gonna make an adjustment live here, but I agree with pretty much everything you said. I think it's one of those situations where I want to be significantly over the field on Anthony Edwards on 3-game slates where there's not a lot of ways to get different because most of the chalk is typically good chalk, or they're just chalky because there's not a lot of other good plays, so you're just playing them because you have to. I always just like looking for the low-owned stud who has a ton of upside, who's still in a good matchup. And Anthony Edwards is that guy for me against this Bulls team that we said it yesterday. Just no surprise, their defense is struggling, losing Caruso and some of the other pieces they've lost, like DeRozan. So Edwards is in a great spot. He hasn't really shown too much ceiling this season, and we're not getting a discount on him, but on a 3-game slate, 17% ownership, I want to be over that all day, every day. And then Rudy Gobert is not showing up enough in my lines. No one likes to play Rudy. He's not fun to play. He's not fun to watch, but he typically does well in these matchups against Vucevic. And the Bulls are coming off the back end of a back-to-back. And so it wouldn't shock me if he's able to be a little bit more aggressive here than we typically see him. And so he's just someone that I want to see show up in my lines. Outside of that, you all can see I have a ton of Mike Conley. Dante DiVincenzo is looking like he might be a core play tonight. We'll see what the final run looks like. But these are guys I want to see show up in my lines. Jaden McDaniels is going to be around field weight exposure for me. Nah is not someone I'm excited to play. But again, we're just looking for value. And at 3,900, seeing 20-plus minutes in a good matchup, I'm okay with him showing up in lines. Naz Reid is showing up around 5%. Looks like that's going to be a bit of a fade for me on this slate. Julius Randle, same story. Hard for me to get overly excited about him, but we know he has upside too. I'm just choosing to force exposure to Rudy over Randle. Anything else you want to add here, Brandon?
Nope.
Sweet. This is one of the higher total games on the slate, so that's part of why I do want to force exposure here. And the Timberwolves are relatively low owned in comparison to some of the other guys on the slate, especially that last game, just in the order we have it. They all start at 8, so it doesn't really change too much. So for the Bulls tonight, Zach LaVine is doubtful. I don't know if we got the news that he's officially out, but I just have been operating as if he's not playing.
Not yet.
Yeah, so he's doubtful. We can basically act like he's not going to play. We've seen this play out a few times now, so it's not as slate breaking as it has been over like the last 2 slates, but it's really just him, and then Lonzo has been out for a while, so that's not new. Who do you like here, man?
So of course, assuming LaVine is out, we saw Aya get a huge boost. So I do like going right back to him. Although I'm not a huge fan of his price increase, I do still like him and don't mind playing him tonight. And then, of course, you have to consider guys like Giddey and White. I didn't do anything to force them in, so I'm kind of letting the DS determine where I'm at with them. I'm okay if I'm around field weight on them. And then Vooch, I did put a 15% min on him. Not the best matchup for him, but he's just another one of those guys with 50-point upside and can do some serious damage on a 3-gamer. So do like him quite a bit at this ownership. And then a couple value pieces that definitely don't mind taking some shots on is Jalen Smith and Dalen Terry. They're guys that's not really exciting to play, but they should see some decent minutes with LaVine out and can definitely pay off that 3K price tag.
Yeah, for me, I was really trying to find a reason to force exposure to these guys. I don't like picking on the Timberwolves, so ultimately I didn't. I don't think they're bad plays, though, at all. And a lot of these guys show up by themselves. So, like Jalen Smith, I'm significantly over the field on. AO, I'm slightly over the field on. Those are the 2 primary pieces I'm looking at. Jalen Smith, you never feel great about, but he has a good usage rate. And especially if Vucevic gets into some foul trouble early and or this game blows out, I do expect Smith to look pretty solid. And the sim model liked him a good bit too, so I wasn't going to get too cute with it. And then Terry showing up for me around field weight, like you mentioned. Patrick Williams, old, reliable. Not someone with a lot of upside, but he makes sense at the price tag, so 6% is fine with me. And then Kobe White and Giddey, I'm getting some exposure to. It wouldn't shock me if Josh Giddey is the guy who gets hot tonight, especially in a tough matchup. He starts hitting those threes. We know he can get hot, and he's been burning me for a while, and so it just would make sense he does well tonight when I'm not playing him. Depending on how news breaks out and shakes things up today, if Giannis plays, I am considering putting like a 5 to 10% min on Josh Giddey just to have him show up in my lines, but outside of that, I'm not really excited about too many of these players. All right, grosser game. We have the Portland Trailblazers going up against the San Antonio Spurs. For the Trailblazers tonight, they are looking relatively healthy. I mean, I don't really count Thibault as out anymore. Shaden Sharp is questionable. doesn't move the needle for me too much. It would give a boost to the guards, of course. But are you playing any of these guys? Are they showing up for you? You taking a shot?
I'm on a couple guys. I definitely don't like that Sharp is back in the mix because he just muddies the water and takes away usage from some of these other guys. So it makes it a lot harder to attack this side. But I still wanted to take shots on guys like Aiton and Grant. I think they've kind of been, or I guess you can throw Simons in there, but I don't like him as much with Sharp back. But outside of Simons, Grant and Aiton have kind of been the more consistent guys on this team, and don't mind their price tags. And it is against the Spurs, who isn't really a team I'm too concerned with. So I do think there's a world where either one of those guys can smash tonight. But outside of those two, I'm not looking elsewhere.
Yeah, Aiton's only showing up for me in around 3% of my lines. Unfortunately, I would be comfortable forcing some exposure, but per usual, I really like the center position tonight. And, call it a bias, call it just true dislike. I really just never like playing DeAndre Ayton. And then Jeremy Grant, he's showing up in about 9% of my lines. I don't think he's a bad player to boost. He's already shown this season that he does still have upside. Matchup against the Spurs, they're playing at a bit of a slower pace these days. Hard for me to get overly excited about it, but at 6,700, I would prefer to be around 20% ownership. If Sharp gets ruled out, I would like to take a shot on Simons, or Scoot here. But with him, like you said, being back in the mix, probably going to see solid minutes still around 20 to 26 is what we have projected for. Just really makes it hard for me to get excited about Scoot and or Simons. Those are the guys they should be utilizing if they want this game to stay close, but they do stupid things because they're tanking, so I'm not betting on it. Next up, we have the Spurs, which isn't a team that is more exciting by any means, but they do have actual injury news. So Sohan's still out. That's why we'll see Castle start. That's why he's somewhat of a viable play. Vassal's been out. Trey Jones has been out. So nothing too crazy there. But what's your game plan here?
Yeah, Castle, I'm expecting him to start again. He hasn't really shown us any kind of upside so far this season, but again, he's just another cheap player in a decent matchup, and the minutes should be there, so willing to keep going there for now. Victor, of course, outside of Giannis, I mean, it's easy to play Giannis and Victor if Giannis is in, so it's hard not to play Victor with the potential upside he has in this kind of matchup. Chris Paul, I'll have a decent amount of. He's a solid player on offense, can rack up assists. So do wish he was a bit cheaper, but he could potentially get a double-double here with assists. So I don't mind getting some exposure there. Julian, I wish he was a bit cheaper. I'll probably be around Phil Wade, not too crazy there because I just don't see him paying off that 5K price tag, but the minutes will be there at least, and again, it's tough matchup, so don't mind that play. And then Harrison Barnes, I'm probably going to be under the field on him. He's probably one of the more inconsistent guys in the league, so not too excited to go there. And then one guy I forced in just because the minutes should be there for him too. He's a bit inconsistent, but I do like his low ownership. That's Keldon Johnson. We've seen him have games in the past to where he can show off some upside. So do like getting there.
You always save those plays I wasn't really thinking about until the end. And now I have to look at him a little bit closer, see how I feel. He did have a 40-point DK game against Minnesota the other day, and he's gotten a little pricier. But on a 3-game slate, that would probably be about what we would want for him to still end up being in a tournament-winning lineup. So definitely not crazy. Yeah, I'm. Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, I really wanted to be on board, but I can't do it. Not today. For the Spurs, I'm really just trusting the DS here. I'm probably gonna put a cap on Castle around like 80%, but I'm just waiting to see how news breaks. So for now, I'll keep it at 99%, but I'll change that here later. Chris Paul is showing up in 36% of my lines, some around field weight. Victor Wembanyama is showing up in 44% of my lines. That will go up if Giannis ends up getting ruled out. And I also made a change to the Bucks, and so that's part of why I don't have as much Victor as I did before. I did have a ton of both Giannis and Victor in pretty much every line, but now my lines are a little bit different, and I'm also having a little bit more balanced lines too, just to get different since everyone's kind of building lines the same way today. Again, that's not an approach you have to have on a 3-game slate. I just like to get different, so ideally I can have some solo wins. Let's see. Outside of that, any other Spurs showing up? Yeah, Champagne's showing up in about 21% of my lines. I'm still under the field. Barnes is in 20% of my lines, still under the field. And a little bit of Branham and a little bit of Blake Wesley, but that's so ugly. Do not play Blake Wesley tonight. Not really trying to go there. All right, next up we have the Jazz going up against the Bucks. Two teams that have been struggling. They are not good, but one team should dominate the other, we would assume. But we do have injury news on the Milwaukee side that makes it a little bit more of a conversation. The big thing for Utah is Markkanen's back. He's probable. Clarkson's probable again. So we're not really getting as cute with some of these guys like Filipowski and some of these other names that we were playing for a little bit there, but who's standing out for you on this side?
So don't mind going back to Keontae George. I think it was last game where he showed us his potential upside, where he had like 50-something DK points. We talk about attacking the point guard position against the Bucks all the time. So I don't mind being over the field on him. I do like Walker Kessler a bit, and I did force some of him in. He's just been playing really well so far this season, averaging a double-double so far, and I believe he's averaging 3 blocks a game too. So he's somebody who can be sneaky at his ownership. And then I don't recommend this play, and it's very risky, but I did force in some Markkanen. People will be kind of off of him because he's coming back from the back spasms, but I do like this matchup, and at 7,900 with the upside we know he has, don't mind attacking that spot while everyone is off of him. So
I'm surprised you didn't mention your guy, man. John Collins. You've been on him all season.
I was thinking about it, but with Markkanen back in the mix, he was a little harder to play. So.
Yeah, he goes back to those 18 to 20-minute games. Not as much like 27, 30-minute upside. I get it. I don't disagree with Lauri Markkanen. I'm not forcing him in yet. If Giannis gets ruled out, I'm a bit more interested in Lauri Markkanen, but for now, I'm not trying to go there. Similar situation with John Collins. I like the Keontae George call. He's showing up naturally for me in about 13% of my lines. I'm going to put a 20% min on him just to kind of make sure he shows up a bit more. Walker Kessler, fantastic call. I don't really like to pick on the Bucks front court too much, but he's been in great form and has done well in tough matchups. I'm just going to match the field, not going to go too crazy here. But then Jordan Clarkson's the guy I want to make sure I have exposure to tonight. I'm going to put a 20% min on him. Again, not really a leverage player or someone I'm trying to get so much exposure to, but I just want to add these guys into the mix because guys like Kessler and Clarkson are just guys that make your lineups a little bit different. Even though it looks like Clarkson's a little chalky, I still don't think he'll be that highly owned personally. No. Let's see. I do really want Giannis to be out now just so I can play Markkanen though, because I think he'll still be low owned.
He's not out. He's playing.
We got the Giannis news.
Yep.
Okay, well, at least we got it in time for the show. He can be in all of our lines, and it will be fine. Father of 3, what's up, man? Yeah, those Panthers. That's the thing. Hey, we have Chuba Hubbard, though. You know, that's
he got
good.
paid.
He got paid, and I'm totally down with it. He deserves it. He works his ass off every game, and the team does nothing else, so he deserves it. Bobby, what's up? Good to see you. All right. For the Bucks, we got the Giannis news. So there's not really any news to worry about here. Chris Middleton's still out. He's been out for a while. He'll continue to be out for a while. Who are you looking at here?
So the obvious Giannis, I mean, he's the best play on the slate, highest upside. I'm not gonna second guess that
No
and
question.
just let Deezus do his thing with him. I'm okay if he's in every single line, to be honest. So
Yep. Same.
uh, next, Andre Jackson Jr. So this team finally wised up and realized how trash Gary Trent is, and he's starting over him. So not the most exciting play, but 3.5K against Utah and should see over 20 minutes. Like I'm okay. He's probably gonna be a core play for me. Just due to that price and matchup. And then guys like Brooke Lopez, Damian Lillard, I do like them as well. And I didn't have to do anything with Lopez, but I did force Lillard in just due to his low ownership. And then I think I had a little bit of Prince, but again, he's another guy who's not that exciting to play, but decent price tag to make lines work.
Yeah, just a lineup filler, not someone that you're overly excited about when it comes to Prince. Yeah, like you said, Giannis is the guy. Damian Lillard is someone I'm going to force exposure to. Fantastic matchup. We know he disappoints us all the time, but again, on a 3-game slate, I'm trying to force exposure to the studs who aren't getting ownership, but are still in a good game environment and have a good matchup. And so that's Damian Lillard for you at 12% ownership. Portis is too expensive for his price and role on this team with Giannis healthy. Brooke Lopez is showing up in about 27% of my lines, so slightly over the field there. Andre Jackson, I did put a cap on. I capped him at 30%. I refuse to have him be a core play for me. But like B-Dub said, $3,500 player should see plenty of minutes tonight. That's never a bad thing. I just want to be over the field on him, which 30% should be. I just didn't want him to ruin my entire night. But I think it's more likely than not he has a pretty solid game and performance. He has a higher usage rate than Gary Trent Jr., and it's really hard to be worse than Gary Trent Jr. So he definitely is in a pretty solid spot still. And then let's see, anyone else showing up? Yeah, we have Brooke Lopez we talked about. I also have some exposure to Torrin Prince, but we're still under the field on him. So you can still call it a fade in a sense. But that's pretty much it. And that's the slate for me. Like you don't have to get too different on a 3-game slate. You just kind of find your spots and you're like, that's gonna be it. And for me, that's just gonna be the approach. Sometimes on smaller slates, there'll be some spots that are super obvious that we can really get some leverage on. But for now, I didn't really see too many of those. But I'll still have the leverage sheet done here soon. Bobby said, "Do you guys prefer Paul over Dame with Giannis playing now?" Not for me. Do you at the point guard position?
Yeah, and if you can get to Dame, I would for sure.
Yeah, I would get to Dame. Yeah, I think Lillard's just the best point guard. And it is one of those weird slates where you can play multiple guys from the same team. Just because it is a small slate and this is the best game environment. So yeah, I would still go Lillard. Thoughts on Nas Reed on FanDuel GPP at 5.4K? Are you able to look at him over there and see if he's a bit more interesting for you, Brandon?
Yeah, I don't mind that play. It's only because I'm not a fan of his price tag, but it is a decent matchup, so I don't mind getting there.
Yeah, Nas Reed is one of those guys. I think if he was lower owned, I probably would have gotten there. But at 20% ownership, it just feels like another solid play. And I don't have any exposure to him. Well, I have 1%. But yeah, I can't play everybody. Father of Three said, came in late and you were just talking about John Collins. Ultimately, we passed. Mostly because Lloyd Markkinen's back. When Markkinen's out, Collins is just a much better play and he has higher upside. You still felt like you wouldn't have minded having exposure to him. You just didn't force him, right,
Yeah,
Brandon?
yeah. If I was getting a little bit of him, I wouldn't X him out by any means, but don't think I can force him in tonight.
Yep. Emperor KJ, good to see you. Godzilla. All right. Well, y'all, that's pretty much this slate. Like I said, not really too much to get to. That's why we were able to come on a little bit earlier. We are gonna shoot for 6:30, but I got back and I was like, I feel like I have a pretty good grip on what I'm doing here. So we might as well go live at 6. But appreciate y'all support. I know it's Thursday, it's an NFL day. So those of you who stayed loyal to the NBA game, I appreciate you. Oh, one last question from Uncle Cheese, who's also in the Discord some days. Said, I'm putting a 30% min on Keontae George tonight, guards against the Bucks. You're not wrong. I think Brandon mentioned doing that.
Yep.
The only concern is the Jazz are just bad. So things are a little bit different there. But yeah, I have a 20% min. I don't think 30 is crazy.
Nope.
James said top 4 players. For me, I mean, I'll just say in all actuality, for me, it's Giannis, Castle, Conley, Fontecchio, and Wemby in that order. That's who I have the most exposure to. If you want literally the top 4 players on the slate, it's all the studs. It's like Giannis, Victor, Edwards, and then kind of pick your poison from there. But what's your thought process, Brandon?
Yeah, exposure wise, I'll say Giannis, Andre Jackson, Castle, and Victor. I guess you can throw DiVincenzo in there. And then overall, like stud wise, what you just said, Giannis, Wemby, and Dame. That's about it.
That's pretty much the group. Dixon, it was Duran. Duran is what really hurt a good amount of my lines. I had like 20 to 30%. He got hurt. You avoided him all year. You played him yesterday for the first time this year, and he gets hurt 7 minutes in. He's now on the banned list. He's, guys against the Hornets when they're missing their 2 top centers. Like, I'm going to play it every time. But I understand if he is on your list now. Single entry, yeah, I get it. 3 gamers is never crazy to try to reserve some of that bankroll. I've had a good amount of success on 3 gamers, but it's just been a minute. So hopefully today we get back on track. But all right, y'all. Appreciate the support. Like I said, we'll see you Monday. No show tomorrow. Good luck. Peace out.